I want to invite you on a journey with me. It's a journey that took 19 years, but I have millions and millions of sisters around the world who have been going through this journey, who have completed it or are just starting. It's a journey to a hysterectomy. Sometimes our femininity and our value as a woman is attached to having a functioning uterus that can birth children. But what happens when that goes wrong? What happens when that uterus has done its job or didn't do the job and yet has to be taken out? This has plunged so many women into deep depression, and they have lost their sense of identity and value, thinking that their worth is tied to this organ. This journey of 19 years that I have put together and compiled in vlogs is what I'm inviting you on. How did I get here? I am still in post-recovery, but many things I have learned, and the most important one is this: my creativity and my ability to create life did not end with my uterus. I want to be able to share some of those principles that I've learned with you. But first, again, strap up your seatbelt because we're going on a roller coaster ride. This is the journey to my hysterectomy. Hi. So it's been a minute since I have posted or recorded about this journey towards my hysterectomy coming up in a couple of months. And when I last left off, it was summertime actually, and now we're in fall. And I just kind of wanted to let you know why it took me so long. Actually, I had a relapse and ended up back in the hospital. And yeah, that was pretty rough. So this concept of pain tolerance is something that I have been on a journey with. And you know the saying, when you go in, you either have really high tolerance or low tolerance. Well, I'm one of those on the high spectrum. And so normally the doctors would say, maybe some of you have heard this, you shouldn't wait for so long to come in and get this checked. Because by the time we get in, it's like, ooh, on a scale from 1 to 10, I normally shout about 25. And then it takes a little bit more stronger medication to calm it down. And we know once your pain gets to a certain level, there's really nothing than any regular Tylenol or Motrin will do. I have had, I am on it's not a pain medication, but it's a nerve medicine called gabapentin. And also going through pain management, there is this magic pill of Motrin plus almost like a Mylanta-ish kind of component to it, which helps your stomach stay settled. But because the Motrin part of it is so strong, I found that has been extremely helpful, so I don't have to take the narcotic per se. But it gets to the point sometimes when none of that works and my body just says, you waited a little bit too long. And so, you know, by the time we get to the hospital, it's IV and they have to give me just really, really strong stuff. So anyway, we had one of those episodes and had to end up back. And so, you know, with the doctor saying, you know, it's time, honey, it's time. I said to him, yeah, it's 19 years of having to deal with this. It had gotten to the point where my greatest fear was travel. And this thing had just started to disrupt my entire life. I was nervous about traveling because when I travel, my backpack has more pills than makeup products. I take all of my medication, from the Percocet to the muscle relaxers to that Motrin, that sweet strong Motrin, with the gabapentin, and then there's the Tylenol. I take every single medication that I have. Let me just show you a little bit. Be right back. These are some of them. Okay. My life. Meclizine. Don't judge me. I'm not a doctor. Hydrocodone. Naproxen. Diazepam, which I think, I might be so wrong. I think this is for nausea. And then, I know this is definitely for nausea. Oh Lord, ondansetron, ODT. Yeah, this is for nausea. And then, more stuff. So, and this is just in here. And in my bag, I do carry some others, just so that wherever I go, in case something happens. So that's been my issue, that when I travel, sometimes the trip, you know, you get really dehydrated on the plane, you know. And so that, in addition to all the turbulence and all the shaking around, I'm always really nervous that after travel, then there's some kind of stress my body goes through, and then voila. And it has happened. It happened countless times when we've gone to Costa Rica, when we just went to Europe this year. It started, and I was freaking out because I've never been to Europe before, and you know, I gotta go to the hospital to get the IV stuff. But you know, oh thank God, it didn't last long. But I knew in my mind, like, okay, this is really just going to disrupt future travels. And so I knew, man, I should have done that while I was in Maryland, but they were trying to take care of my back, which is another issue. So here it is now. I went to the gynecologist, and the one that they referred me to, and let me tell you about referrals. A little miracle on how I know that this is time. So I end up in a hospital, and there's a friend of mine who works for the hospital here, and I've done the mental health trainings with her. And so she just, apparently she was thinking about me. She texted me, and I told her what was going on, and she says, here, go to this doctor. That is my doctor. That doctor had serviced her also. And when I looked at the referral from the hospital, it was the same doctor. So I said, okay, all right. And I did my research, kind of looked at, you know, the doctors around the area. She had really high stars, and she's one of a few doctors here that actually use the robot to do the surgeries. And the robot can, you know, it's a little bit less invasive, and if there's any reconstruction that it has to happen, she specializes in that. And so I said, okay, well, I'm a little bit better feeling about this, because I don't know about you, but where doctors are concerned, I am super skeptical. I cannot stand knife happy doctors per se, because I feel that, and doctors who are impatient with the process, or even with the patient, to even kind of, I don't want to say babysit them through it, but it's a lot going on emotionally and mentally when you're going through something happening with your body, and you just don't need anybody to rough handle you. You know, I've been in doctor's office where they're just so rough. It's like they're made of steel. There's like no compassion. You know, they ask you the questions, they don't even look at you, and it's like and they forget that there's a human being on the other side of their chest, you know, around on the opposite side of their desk, laying on a bed, who is in a lot of pain, and who probably is pretty nervous about what it is that they're going to say to them. And so I'm extremely critical of and leery of going to doctors who I feel don't show a sense of compassion, at least, or care about the individual versus the what's happening to the individual. And so I don't want to be another statistic. I don't want to be another number. I don't want to be another paycheck to pay your mortgage. I don't. And so I wanted to make sure. So just a little tip. I believe wholeheartedly that we should shop around for doctors and even interview them. Yeah, ask them all these questions and make a decision. There are so many of them, and there are plenty of them, and go by referrals also. And I know with referrals, sometimes, a doctor might be good for one person and then crazy for another. But, go yourself and see how your temperament works with them. So anyway, a little bit more on doctors when I come back. I'll do a few of them because I haven't seen you since the fall. I mean, the summer. It is the fall now. All right. I'll be back. Ciao. Oops. I have a little clicker thingy that's supposed to start, and I think it just shut off the other video. So, all right. So yeah, it's a little cold. So we're talking about doctors, and I don't know if I was like given a sign not to say what I said before. I'm gonna say it anyway. So anyway, I was just saying that it's really important that we trust the doctor and actually like the doctor that is caring for us. When I say that, I mean to make sure that we see that there's some kind of connection of care there, and that you are not just a number, a patient, a statistic, an experiment, and also a paycheck to pay for their mortgage. You know how much copay and payment we have to pay out of pocket if we don't have full coverage? So you had better care for me more than just the paycheck. Anyway, I feel like it's also important that we interview the doctor, like I said before, and just make sure that there's somebody that you believe can care for you. These children are like yelling outside. So anyway, welcome to live. So now the other thing is, like, with male doctors, I don't have a problem with male doctors. I actually have a few friends of mine who are male doctors. They're pretty incredible. What I do feel, especially with situations like mine where we're dealing with my uterus, it's like, to this male doctor, like one of my gynecologists was a male doctor, and he was Asian. And when I went to him, I was like, okay. But I had to do the interview. This man was like one of the most caring and gentle doctors that I've ever had. And I've had female doctors who are rough. I mean, rough. Like, ladies, rough. And so to me, at first I was thinking, like, okay, he does not have a uterus. He don't have a vagina. So when I'm describing my pain and where it hurts, he's only coming from a medical standpoint and an investigation in the medical realm, and he doesn't really know, like, what I'm feeling. So I would expect that a little bit from him, but like, girlfriends, come on, like, you yourself have a uterus too. Like, when you go up there, can you be gentle? Especially, if that stuff hurts. So, I'm kind of chuckling now, but it's not fun when it's happening. So anyway, he was just super, super, super amazing. And even to the point where he did my final ablation. And I think I mentioned before, so I've had 2 DNCs and 2 ablations. So the DNC is where they go in and they scrape the uterus lining and hopefully it can decrease a little bit of the buildup and lessen the bleeding. So there's so many that you can have. I had two, they told me I can't have any more. When that didn't work, I had two ablations. And ablations, you know, like obliterate. So ablations is where they go in and literally like burn the uterine lining. And that is supposed to, you know, help a sister out too. Well, what I did not anticipate, and I should have thought about it, this is why I'm actually like speaking out, is that there's any surgical procedure that you have where they're going and mess with what's there already. There's the reminder of it through scarring and a lot of scar tissue. So when I went to this new doctor and she was trying to do a biopsy, I was gonna actually come and record after it. I couldn't. I was a mess. She tried to do the biopsy, and when she went in, she's like, "Oh, there's a lot of scar in there." And I was like, "Yeah, from years ago, years ago." So she said, "I don't know if I'll be able to get through the scar, but I need to get a sample so I could do the biopsy before the hysterectomy." Well, there was no numbing. There was no local anesthesia or anything like that. And when girlfriend pinched and she tried, it's one of those things where I have heard of people jumping off tables from pain. I became one of those. The pain was indescribable. And what happens is, as soon as I feel pain, that kind of pain, the tears just roll. I don't need onions. You don't have to tell me a sob story. The tears just, it's just, I cry when I'm in pain. I don't scream or anything like that, but the tears just roll. This time I screamed and the tears rolled. And I just literally pulled myself off the bed. So she said, "Oh, I can't get in there. Let me try a different way." And at that point I was like, when like the pain, I was like, wait, let me catch my breath. Let me catch my breath. And I was just like, oh my God, this is not happening. As she tried again, that was worse. And yeah, I literally was on the table at that point. And she's like, "I can't do it." So then what she's saying is that, with all of this scarring, using the robot is what we'll have to do. And now here's the other set. Here's the other set. Your girl here didn't just have to have 4 sets of scarring from those 4 procedures, but when I had Nigel, remember I had an emergency C-section, and with all of these, all of the infection, I have a ton of scar tissue from the C-section. And the C-section, the scar is straight down. I don't have a bikini, so I can't really wear those bikinis that are supposed to be really, really super cute. I try, but there's a scar that goes right down my stomach, and I also have the scar from my back surgery that goes right down. So scar. So anyway, she's like, "There's a lot of scar in there." These kids are screaming. And so they have to use the robot, and there might be some reconstruction of my stomach. So this is where, for me, I was like, okay, I know this has to be done, but as a woman, it just came to the point where I was like, wow, this is a lot. This is really, really, really a lot to process. It's a lot. And it took about a day or so for the cramping to stop and for that pain to stop. And it just was like, this is really a lot. So she was not able to do the biopsy. And then here we are being faced with not just a hysterectomy, but a little bit of reconstruction and having to deal with the scar tissue that has sat there for the last 19 years. It's a lot to process. But again, because I know that I'm not the only one, so let me come and talk about it. So anyway, I'll be back. Hopefully these kids will stop screaming. Oh my gosh, they're just, I mean, like, anyway, bye. Let's try this.